Happy Tuesday, everybody. And this is your host, Elaine Bartlett. And you and I are about to step into the purple portal. And there is just so much happening. I don't know if you all can feel it, but I surely can. So I'm going to share today some of what I'm feeling through messages, through insights, through some stories. And you are more than welcome and, of course, invited to call in as needed. And that number is 321-806-3159, 321-806-3159. Or, if that's not your comfort level, you can reach me at purpleportal777 at gmail.com. purpleportal777 at gmail.com. You're going to get a faster response to questions via email versus text. I'm just not that great a texter. I find it very annoying to be texting a lot. So if you're really looking for me, the better way is to either connect with this email or any other email for me that you have that is current. Because as many of you know, since I've moved around a great deal over the last several years, who knows what's appropriate. But you do have healthy, happy ways to reach me. So it's up to you to take advantage of that. Okay, one of the first things is I do have a message. Listen up. This message is about your footprints, your energetic, esoteric, ethereal footprints. You know, every word you utter, every thought you think is leaving a lasting effect, not only on the planet, but in the energy field surrounding the planet. So I'd like you to start looking at your own footprint. Are you leaving a positive effect on the planet? Or is your footprint so muddied and so distorted that no one would want to walk in your footsteps? Have you ever walked behind someone on a busy street and all of a sudden you unconsciously change your pattern so you are not walking in their footsteps? Pay attention to that. They probably are very filled with negative thoughts or disruptive, or angry, whatever. Don't walk in somebody else's footprints, number one. Make your own footprints. But they should be filled with an energy field that you would be happy to have someone else walk in those prints. You know, the footprints have to do with you creating the divine plan that you set out for yourself before you came here. And that's what your footprints are all about, but you can change those footprints anytime you wish. Your daydreams, these are part of your creation of your footprints. Sitting in a chair rocking for a few hours, that's your participation in making your own footprints. And right now, holy smokes, the time is ripe, it's probably overripe, to take the necessary steps to set your life in motion correctly. So pay attention to your footprints. It's very interesting. You know, I live near the water, I live near the ocean, so it's easy for me to go and walk next to the ocean and watch how quickly a set of footprints is absolutely washed away. So it's a very fragile, our creations are fragile. So walk with clarity and integrity and authenticity so that your footprint, even if it's supposedly washed away when you leave your body, it retains a sense of a beautiful aroma, if you will, that circles the entire globe and does some beautiful things. So that's it on the message. There'll be more messages today, trust me. Oh, well, here's another one. Today, actually, kudos to myself because I know what my galactic signature is. And your galactic signature is an equation, comes up once a year. my galactic signature is today, which means it is my galactic birthday. And when I was doing my contemplation this morning and I connected the dots, I'm like, whoa, this is so cool. And it made me go back into the understanding of my soul signature from a galactic point of view and actually become more dedicated, more aware, more alive, more involved in it. And so what the heck is today? Today is called a red galactic dragon. And when you actually know your soul signature, one of the interesting things is I'm looking at some of the paperwork right now, it actually involves, the red dragon involves throat energy. And here I am using my throat. It's always been very, very important to me. I've always paid attention to how I use my throat and my words. Well, now I know why. It's part of my signature. And part of my job is to love the entire world as I love myself. Now, the trick here, of course, is learn to love yourself. Learn to see that aspect of you that is completely pure and at one with essence. So it's kind of a conundrum. You can't love the world till you love yourself. When you love yourself, your expression to the world will be much greater. So even though today may not be, this may not be your galactic birthday, this energy resonates with you. And the fact that we have come in to take care of ourself first with great certitude and persistence. You can't let up on yourself. You can't put yourself down. And this has got nothing to do with the narcissistic gimme, gimme, got me world. This is being very honorable. This is as simple as, choosing the correct foods, that's critical. Choosing proper rest, making the choices as best you can with the body type that you have. If you've chosen to experience a body, for example, that is wheelchair bound or somewhat incapacitated, well, you don't have to pay attention to the memo. You're going to be running around the block 5 times a day. That memo's not for you. So it's discernment. And it's finding out what is your critical role. What do you want to do here? And the red dragon, here's a beautiful statement. The red dragon assures us that the universe is always conspiring on my behalf and on your behalf. And how often do we make a terrible judgment that, the universe, they're all screwed up. They don't know what they're doing. No, this is saying, hey, the red dragon is the initiator. It's the energy field that says, first breath, impulse of life. Dare to go out and sit on that new limb. It might be lonely, but go and dare to sit there. And that's today's energy for every one of you. Dare to birth a sense of new beginnings. Embrace a new way of seeing something. And understand that every single moment is a new creation. And here's a wonderful quote from one of the Maharishis: when thinking stops, being takes over. And man, is that ever true. And the galactic part of today is, find the best way to lead your ideal life. What is that about? With authenticity and integrity. I had to get a new set of tires yesterday for my car. I'm not exactly a mechanic, to say the least. I'm still uncomfortable and unfamiliar with places to go in this new territory that I'm exploring. And so I found the place for the tires and then asked the next question, has there been an alignment? No, we don't do that, but you should take it for that shortly. Okay. And I look at the guy and I said, I'm new. I need a place with integrity and they're honorable. Now, there was another, his own manager was standing right next to him. There was this exchange of looks back and forth that was so telling because they both understood that I was asking for something very unusual. Nobody seems to ask for this anymore. And you know what? They both stepped up to the plate with, one of them said, I used to be a mechanic. Here's your right place. So it's very interesting. It's kind of like this subtle undercurrent, this groundswell of not all of us, many of us wanting to get back to point me to honorable, point me to ethical, point me to integrity filled. And why would they rise to that occasion? Because I'm doing my very best to be a vibrational match to it. And the reason many people aren't even asking such a question, they've put their own integrity down. Living authentically or with clarity doesn't seem to be all that important. So you're only going to get what you're a match for. That's why you do you first. You take yourself in hand. You get back to your core. Nobody can coach you to do this. You got to do it yourself. And there's a couple of little examples I'll share with you. You know, some of you who heard me last week, you know I spoke about the gene keys, and I mentioned that I have a couple of copies for sale. Sent one out to the wilderness somewhere, and I hope you're enjoying that because I think you're listening. But it's a magical, marvelous tool. But I had a conversation with a gal that listened very intently last week, and she still hadn't received her copy of the book yet. But she had another tool. She had a deck of gene key cards, which you have to just absolutely marvel at how the universe would manage to get a set of, I didn't even know there was such a thing, of gene key cards into her hands probably a couple of years ago, of which she really didn't understand, didn't know what to do, or how to use them. Well, after my instructions of how you can go on that website for free and get a copy of your profile so you know what your keys are, she did that. Now, this beautiful soul, she's learned the word very well, contemplation. So she spent time and she contemplated her main key. Now, in her case, she apparently has felt, because of a parent, or maybe both parents, very victimized. And I know a bit of her story. And I would tell you, by all observations, I'd call that victimized. There was abuse and not nice things happening with one of the parents. You can't sugarcoat that. You can't pretend it didn't happen. But what the gene keys allowed this beautiful soul to do was go very deeply into every single word that she could possibly absorb, and then take her part in accountability and her part in judgment against and unforgiveness, and shut down, because she had shut down this particular parent. The parent happens to be a male parent, so she just shut him down. And I had spoken to her a couple of times. There was no way she could have moved through that. The energy was too painful, no matter how she tried to approach it. But whatever happened within the energy of the gene keys, after a good, hard, long, genuine sob for a while, she took out she went to her computer and wrote this person who's still in body a very carefully loving 5-page letter. And then when he received the letter, he called. I believe that's how the story goes. It's close enough. And one called the other. Here's my little glitch. But I think he called her. They had a wonderful cry together. And for Father's Day, she's going to go see him. The healing is 100% complete. I don't care what else happens on Father's Day. That's the power of unconditional love. She had every single right and reason intellectually to write this guy off. And I'm sure many of you, I've stood in those shoes where you've been so wounded that, don't tell me I've got to forgive that person. It's not happening. Well, that's all well and good, except I'm going to fast forward you to a conversation I had yesterday with a person. This person perceives that she has been very, very wounded by a male colleague. He was inappropriate sexually. He did not rape her. He did not molest her. He was simply drastically inappropriate. I mean, it's nothing that I would particularly want to have myself go through or a granddaughter or anything, but quite frankly, I've had worse. So you look at the degrees of stuff, and yesterday that fellow sent her an email asking for something, and she ran the email past me. It was innocuous. He just wanted a favor from her. Holy smokes, she went ballistic with the fact that she doesn't wish him well. She's just never going to have anything to do with this person. I've been there too. I've stood in that. But eventually, you've got to drop it. You're going to have to soften. And why would I say that? Because I've studied now the I Ching for a gazillion years, and they keep counseling every other hexagram the value of softness and the drip of water that wears away the mountain. And so it's soft, it's gentle, it's let it go, right? It's the whole message of how we move forward in life. Now, what people don't understand, because of the work that I have done, oftentimes I have a tremendously large glimpse, a big window into the thought pattern, if they're not careful, is going to make them very sick. It's just one of the gifts I have earned. So I'm very careful of that gift, and I'm extraordinarily respectful of it and watchful. Well, this gal went on and on to the point where she energetically picked up a machine gun at me. I could feel it. My whole body kind of collapsed back onto itself. And I just listened, and I kind of wound up with, you are where you are. You are where you need to be. And you carry on just as you are. There's no conflict here. There's no countering it. You simply let it go. She didn't let it go. I was the next candidate for the machine gun after this poor guy who, yes, he was wrong. I grant you that. People do the dangdest things. And they're not proud of it. Nobody's proud of their crummy behavior. But where she went with me was, and she's quite a bit younger than I, where she went was, well, all of my girlfriends would have told me absolutely differently than what you're telling me. And I very calmly said, you bet they would. Less than 1% of the people you'll ever meet will tell you what I'm going to tell you. To simply drop it. Simply allow what's happened to heal itself. Don't react to what this fellow wrote to you. It was not hostile. It was just a request. Soften it and get more into a response mode rather than a react mode. Holy smokes, she hung up in such a twitter because there's no way she's going to forgive this man. Not now, and probably not for a long time. Because she has one of the interesting diseases that I speak to many of you about, the fascinating let-go disease. When you can't let go of this stuff, somebody's going to get hurt, and it's going to be you. And then you won't understand why you're sick. And you're going to blame it on the food you eat, the water you drink, the air you're breathing. That's not helping, I guarantee that. But it's what's inside that's what's picturing outside. You are sick from the inside out, not from the outside in. And we got to all figure that out pronto. So it was very sombering. So I hung up and I thought, interesting. Now, how do I take care of myself? Because when you are repeatedly punched, which was what the sensation was, because she was just so angry, because I told her something she didn't want to hear. Which, of course, then you hit it right. You got the nail right on the head, and it's exactly what she needed to hear. However, here's what I did, and I share this with you because I think some of you could use this. I immediately saw all around my feet, in a big puddle, a lovely purpley, pinkish, golden, like a big cloth, if you will. At least that's what it looked like at my feet. And almost like a magician, I saw this cloth come up, wrap itself over my head as a hood, and completely encircle my whole body. And I simply stood in that glorious thing for maybe 5 minutes. And even today, a couple of times I thought, no, this is all wrapped around me. So that it becomes truthful what the 91st Psalm says. No harm comes near my tent. You see, those of us who are even a tad empathic or even sympathetic, it's too easy to pick up the other guy's junk. Even though consciously I'm giving it right back to her during the conversation, and perhaps as I continue to evolve, I won't need any magical cape around me. But I'm one that says, if the tool works for you today, use it. If it doesn't work, don't use it. Not every tool is for everybody every day. But it was just such a happy tool. My goodness, I was great. I was like so relieved to see this puddle of colorful, lovely, loving energy to put it around me. And this occurred actually later in the evening, which often in the old days would have meant I would have taken it to sleep with me. I slept like just a darling little baby. So these tools are wonderful. If you have any questions about this tool or about these two cases, now is the time to pick up the phone, 321-806-3159. Some of you may also be sort of trapped in either an inability to forgive or you picked up too much of the stuff. And so you have to be careful, okay? Either way. Unforgiveness is going to make you sick. I'm sorry. 2 and 2 is 4. And we all, if you've reached the age of probably 2, we all have reasons, logical, kind of sound reasons why I'm not going to forgive that son of a bitch kind of thing. Okay, drop it. Just drop it. Reason being, I mean, look, you have free will. I just love you enough, even if I've never met you. I want you to stay well while you're in this body. When you're ready to leave your body, you put it down nicely, but not through some tragic, horrendous illness, which is what now seems to be the way of the planet. So, So hi there. There's somebody on the line. Hi.
Hi. Hi, it's Sydney from New Jersey.
Hello, Sydney. Who do you have to put down?
Who do I have to put down?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, my career. Yeah, I need to walk away from a lot of things and just keep creating new.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, today's the day to do it. It really, really is.
Yeah, that's exciting. How do I determine my own galactic birthday?
Okay. It's a formula, Sydney. It actually is a formula that it's not like, remember in the old days I could give the formula for how to determine which gua you were energetically, mathematically. Yeah. This is a little more tricky because the chart doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So for those of you who would like to know what your galactic signature is, you're going to have to just drop me an email. and
Oh,
I'll shoot it back to you.
yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. I'm was really drawn to listen today, and I'm like, well, I could listen to it later, and it's like, no, go listen to it live. So there's something very important about this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there because of my own evolution. I'm so becoming so much more clear and embraceable. Not that people can embrace me. I can embrace the other guy. I'm sure that actually it's a two-way street. But I feel it's easy for me to embrace all that is very, very healthy in this material. And so it's easy now for me to flip to, let me look in that I Ching book. No, let me go over to the galactic information. No, wait a second. There's a message over here. And like stir them into a rainbow pot that some which way makes sense. Now, how I have gotten to that point of clarity, and this is important for you, Sydney, and every other person who's listening. You only can get to that clarity by practicing the presence. There's no other way.
Yeah.
And it's a determined sense of actualization and realization that there's only one. And the more I practice it, it's becoming, and I take that back. I'm being it with greater and greater clarity. And the more you're being it, the answers are right there. So as much as I say, well, I went to the I Ching for this and the galactic information for that, it has a way of synthesizing into a higher expression. So I encourage anyone who's brave to at least Google some information from Sailor Bob, who has written, well, he didn't write it, but James Braha did, Living Reality. It's not for the beginner, and yet it's completely for the beginner. You wouldn't need any other thing. So there's a lot of the planet so wants to heal now. And of course we're bumping into every obstacle, but it's here for you.
Yeah, and it's so important, and something's happening where I'm finding within my personal effects that my files and my photographs and things, someone has been in them and squashes them all about and has mixed them up. And so it's making this process, it's drawing me back, because you get like, ugh. So now I have to fix this, and can I be mad at that person, and does it matter, and am I sure who it is anyway? And, so it's a very strange time for me to have to move through all that.
Well, the more you don't take delivery of emotions, that's what's making people sick. They're taking delivery of emotions. The more it's like write it on your forehead, no taking delivery of emotions. And you certainly don't take delivery of their stuff. You see, that's the example of this gal last night. She took delivery of stuff, all right, and it just choked her.
Yeah.
Whereas I didn't. Now I cannot tell you, it didn't feel like she had put a hot electric wire into me. It got that, but I didn't do anything with it. I pulled it out as quickly as possible, almost instantly.
Yes. Yeah.
So the more aware you are of who you are, things naturally have to drop away. And then no harm comes near your tent. Nobody will enter your space. They can't. So that's why it's always you do you. Don't worry about the other guy.
Right.
Mostly, Sydney, from what I'm seeing, and I say it with great compassion because I find it rather disturbing, the bulk of the population is not interested in doing the real work.
I think people are more and more, they're not, it's too hard to do real life, and there's so much lying and cheating and people trying not to work at work and all that it's a lot of work to be real.
Yeah, but you can as you do that inner work and be your core, be that essence, it will naturally, and it could take a few months, granted, because this time warp thing on the planet is sort of weird, but it doesn't need to take a few months. It would naturally align you with the people that you need to be aligned with.
Right.
So that's, again, doubling back to the value. The only one to even attempt to do is yourself. And no labels, no judgments. I was horrified at the judgments that were pouring forth from this gal with venom. Now that shows me what's on the inside of her. Now, if the inside is where we create from, oh my, you can see why I would be concerned about her health. What will outpicture?
Right, but what something's fueling it. There's history. There's so much history that's fueling that.
You can say there's history, and I'm going to say what history? She's only got this moment. You see, I will counter that immediately with, yep, and in this moment, this is all there is. I won't go into history anymore, and I surely won't go into the future, because the presence isn't in either place. Mm-hmm. So we can argue history till we're blue, but it's going to create blame. It's going to be victimization. He did this to me. You know, I'll share a very intimate personal story. 20 years ago or so, I was dating this pillar of society. Oh my gosh, I was head over heels in love with this guy. And I certainly did not realize the extent of his temper. And one lovely sunny afternoon, when I gently said, you know, I don't feel all that well. I want to go home. Okay. You'd think that's a simple request. No, he had half a bottle of wine in him, and he took the rest of the bottle and smashed it into my head. How he didn't finish me off that day, I'll never know. And it took me a couple of years at that time, because of the conscious space I was in then, to really balance it out. And eventually I did. I went on with my life. Didn't think much of him. Wondered on occasion through the years whatever happened to him. Okay, this week I got the memo of what's happening to him. He's only a year or two older than I, and he's now bedridden in hospice. And I've taken yesterday, because that's when it impacted me, to really love him and ask him to be able to have the grace of an easy passing.
Yeah.
I'm not fully aware of the gifts he gave me, but I'm sure there were many. Number one, he probably sent me free from relationships for a long time so I could do the work to sit right here, right now.
Yeah.
But I could have been a victim. I could have been, woe is me, blame him, he destroyed my life. No. May he have the gift of an easy passing from here on. And may his spirit go with the understanding that I love him completely unconditionally.
Yep.
Now that takes a big soul. Well, dang it. That's who I am. It's who you are. It's who this girl is last night. It's who we are. We are that big. I'm refusing to step into smallness anymore. I've been small all my life. Get over that. Drop it, as I tell myself. We are huge. You'd have to be huge. You are the presence made manifest. Therefore, what past? Who hurt you?
Right.
What insecure future? There is none. I'm fully present with you right now. And that love that I feel for Sydney is actually expanded simply because I know what these 4 days are. The window of the expansion that's being absolutely directed toward your heart center radiates out globally, whether anybody ever turns on this podcast today.
Mm.
It's hitting everyone across the entire world.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there we have it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
It is good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, darling. I do love you, and you're perfectly, beautifully fine. Carry on. Actually, I take that back. I've said carry on for a long, long time.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, I realized the other day, and it was shown to me, like, one of those, I'm so sorry. So I've been apologizing to anyone and everyone where I've ever said carry on, but now it's a little bit habitual, so I have to break the habit. Because look at the intonation of carry. I'm busy telling everybody, drop it. Talk about a contradiction of energies. So you don't need to carry on. You need to shine on or twinkle on. But you sure don't need to carry on. Put it down.
Okay.
Got
Very
it?
good.
Okay.
Got it.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So hopefully those of you who are tuned in today, you realize when someone calls in, they're a trigger point for me to get information, yes, to that person, but to you as well. So they became your voice, your question, maybe not exactly in the same method that you would ask it, but apply as needed, take as needed, and apply as needed. Because I'm telling you, this stuff works. It absolutely works. And it's a case of, practice makes it work even bigger, better, bestest. It really does. So I'm going to share some other things that have been happening in my world. Okay, then. And some of the things, of course, are not everybody's cup of tea, which absolutely astounds me that people will be so frightened of information. Hopefully, most of you who are listening have begun to drop your fears. But this past week, there has been a wonderful docuseries on, and to get it, you'd have to Google it. I think at this point, we're up to, tonight is the 6th part of the series, tomorrow is the 7th part of the series, and then it will be complete. I don't know if they'll ever run it again, but it's a docuseries called The Sacred Plant, Plant, and then the : Healing Secrets Exposed. Quite honestly, I didn't think I was going to watch this thing. I have watched information, other docuseries, which I was very drawn to. One of them, the first one, was The Truth About Cancer. Absolutely astoundingly terrifying, eye-opening, and it just, you don't even know where to put your rage at the system. And then the next docuseries that I became very in tune with was Vaxxed, Vaxxed, which is the truth about vaccinations, particularly the MMR, which has been single-handedly responsible for enormous tragedy on the face of this earth. Enormous. And for those of you who counter that statement, take a deep breath and watch and get information. You're suffering from disinformation and head in the sand. But so I had those two under my belt, and I thought, well, the sacred plant, I don't know. Well, I decided, let me plunge in. The sacred plant has to do with things you need to find out about. And so I've been watching, and I've had to face more fears. You see, when you get information, you actually have to face your fears. And I've had certain, I didn't know, I mean, I think I'm pretty judgment free until your feet are to the fire, and you have to really take a good look at receiving new information and what are you resisting. That resistance is huge, and it's been very well programmed in us. So the information on the sacred plant has to do with a plant that until the mid-1930s was carried in every single doctor's little black bag. It was used for almost every ailment. It's grown naturally, free, honorably, wild, happy. But then in the 30s, a little thing called the pharmaceuticals began to gain momentum. And as they did, things that were free and happy and healing, and not, it didn't bring money, or they couldn't patent it, they began to be demonized. So the demonology process has been very thorough, with very good people absolutely terrified of this plant. When you watch this docuseries, the first thing that came to my mind, well, the first thing that happens is as you just listen a little bit, not too far into it. Now, granted, I'm very sensitive, so oftentimes things reach me, perhaps that they wouldn't reach you. But I was so shocked with the information that this rage went through me. Raw rage at what we have been programmed and conditioned and disinformationed to believe and swallow. And the next thing, the first session was about an hour and a half long, and by the end of it, I didn't know which was the larger emotion, whether it was rage at what has been done to us collectively and what we have bought into, versus the abject sorrow for the countless people who could be helped by this thing and that are not permitted to be because it's been judged illegal or immoral or against a religion or whatever nonsense we've been fed. And of course, in my case, we all have somebody close to us that's been exposed to a heinous, dreadful disease and then a heinous, horrific death. Not easy. Not easy to get out of their body, not easy to stay in their body. And when you get healthy information and you process it, you have to see things differently, including your own life. A lot of this addresses massive life-altering diseases, the first being cancer, MS, Parkinson's. Both my dad suffered dreadfully from Parkinson's. My brother, who is alive and a few years older than I, he has Parkinson's. And here's the sorrow with this thing. I know my brother loves me very much. I also know that he's kind of relegated me to the realm of woo-woo. I can't tell you how offensive that connotation is to me. It always was. And as I gain wisdom and knowledge and information, it's even more nauseating because it's a mark of disdain, dismissal. And so here's a whole series of healing secrets that could help his journey. And I doubt it will get to him. And when I look at, many of you know the name Martha, my older sister. Oh, my dear. I'm convinced she'd still be here because of the fact that she was a fine metaphysician and became absolutely frightened and bought the Kool-Aid that that's the way she had to go in Western medicine. A terrible illness, a terrible leaving. And I'm not so sure. She's got an interesting way of still being with me. and she knows I'm that bratty sister who does speak up, I'm not so sure she's not the one who's led me to accept and embrace these different knowledge bases. Because as I was sharing some of what I had learned so far to 2 or 3 people, because I'm very cautious. You wouldn't know it. I'm announcing this over the air, but I'm being very selective in how I present it to you. But I've gone in depth with a few very trusted friends. Already, they have turned around with friends that they know that are in deep, deep healing trouble. I'm like, wow. So that's the value of helping each other through get the right information. Don't dismiss it. Here's another case. I have another dear friend. Oh, geez. She's had a dreadful past year with cancer. Okay, a couple of months ago, dear husband is also diagnosed with colon cancer. I suggested this to her. Now, I know them both very well. He absolutely dismissed it, wanted no part of it. So I have to take a look at things like that, and certainly my sense of acceptance and allowance is huge. I understand. It's alarming to have to look at everything we've been taught. It's alarming to have to drop your belief systems. It's frightening to think that you have been duped. It's terrifying. On the other hand, because of his dismissal, my heart just goes, okay, I know you're there. You know, every single one of us has already written our own exit strategy, as I call it, and some are going to have a more comfortable exit strategy than others. It's not, our exit strategy is not encoded to be painful. Our exit strategy is all about, okay, you've taken what you needed to take, you've given what you came to give, and now you may go back into the essence of life itself and celebrate unconditionally at all times. Of course, the twisted part of this is we were sent here to celebrate. And as Sydney just pointed out a few minutes ago, in her own way, you're not seeing the celebration in the marketplace. Anything but. There's double dealing, there's meanness, there's duplicity. And it's like, wow. However, you do you, I'll do me. And the 2 of us, or the 100 of us, or the thousands of us, the millions of us, we will be the grassroots and the infrastructure of the new reality. I'd say that's a wonderful soul assignment. People are always asking me, what's my purpose? Duh, that's your purpose. It's pretty cool. And your response is often, oh, no, that's too hard. I can't do that. Please tell me I should go be a bricklayer or, get a job doing this. No, your job is at hand at all times. Your purpose is always evident. So very quickly, I know I have a minute left. I'm going to just open somewhere in the Gene Keys. I don't know how to bring the Gene Keys to you very quickly, but I'll try my best. For those of you who bought the book, Susan in Texas, would you please make sure you spend several days on the introduction? The introduction has very cool information in it. For the rest of you, here's a thought for the day. All judgment is self-judgment. That's one of those owies. Here's another owie. The more you complain, the more you damage yourself and the world. I actually put the word ouch next to a lot of things in the Gene Keys because that's a big ouch to me. The more I complain, the more I damage myself. Wow. That means my cell structure's damaged. That means I'm going to get old. No way. We're not doing that. So until the next time, drop your judgments, open your heart, be who you came to be.